All right, welcome back. So what you guys are going to be working on today is what I call a round thing. So this is my teacher example. It's pretty basic. I didn't go all out. I just wanted to show you guys the bare minimum. But I'm assuming that you guys know how to do a lot of these things by now. So I'm really testing your knowledge of Photoshop and Illustrator and seeing what you can come up with on your own. So before you even start, what you need is you need a landscape and something to go within your landscape to tell a story. So I chose this guy as a floating image. If you don't know what you want to put in there yet, that's okay. So I would just focus on finding a landscape. One of my favorite places to find landscapes is unsplash.com. You can also use images that you've taken. It doesn't need to be anything special. I just chose this little mountain range for our image. As a reminder, in order to open something in Photoshop, you can look at it in Windows Photo Viewer and go to Open with Photoshop. Sometimes you can double click on it. You can go to File, Open, and find your file. It's totally up to you. So, now that I have my landscape up, what I need to do is I essentially need to make it a square. So I'm going to go up to the top and go to Image, Image Size, and I want to make sure this chain is unchecked. This is connected, this is unconnected. So you want it unconnected. I want 300 resolution, and I want it about 4,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels. We want these two numbers to be the same because, again, we're making a square. When you're done, you're going to hit OK. Some of you guys might come up with an error about your graphics card. Just hit OK. It's fine. And it'll take a minute or two to compress it into a square. To zoom in, zoom out, Control plus, Control minus to see what it looks like. And basically, we're going to make this into what looks like a little planet. You can turn your photo upside down if you want to. I like mine the way it is, and they look very, very different, so I would highly recommend you try out both. But in order for you to turn your image upside down if you're playing around, you can go to Image, Image Rotation, and you can either move it clockwise, you can move it 180 degrees. It's totally up to you. But I'm just going to stick with the regular, so I'm going to go step backward. So, in order for us to make this look kind of like a little planet, I'm going to go up to Filter, Distort, Polar Coordinates, and a window is going to appear. I can zoom out to see what it looks like. And I want to make sure that rectangular to polar is checked, and go ahead and hit OK. It's going to make this crazy weird thing, and I went through about 5 different images until I found one that I truly liked. You don't have to pick mountains. You can pick anything you want as long as it's a landscape. You could try out, water, trees, all kinds of things, and they have really cool effects. So I want to get rid of a lot of this extra junk that I don't need. So I'm going to take the crop tool and I'm going to crop it in to my liking. You can rotate it around if you want to, but I'm just going to leave mine like that. When you're done, hit Enter or the check mark, and you're going to notice there's this horrible stitch right here in the middle, and you're going to have to get rid of that. You've learned how to use the healing brush tool, the clone tool, the smudge tool, burn and dodge. Any of those tools you can use to clean up that line. Some of you might prefer the clone stamp tool, and you can make your brush bigger or smaller by using the bracket keys on your keyboard. If you decide to use the clone stamp tool, I'd probably turn down the opacity. And how this works again, you hold Alt, sample an area, and you kind of click on it. But you're almost going to have to paint in your area and blend it in, just like you would makeup. So if you make a mistake, you can go to Edit, Step Backward, but you're going to work on doing that seam. Up here at the top, you can use the healing brush tool, or you can use liquify. So here's the healing brush tool, and how this works is you click on it and it heals it, but you have to be aware that it might look a little bit blurry, so be aware of that. I'm gonna go backwards. One of my favorite tools to use is liquify. You can find that in your filter options. And how this works is you can zoom in on an area in liquify. You can do forward warp, reconstruct, or smooth. So if I did a forward warp in that same area, I can use my bracket keys, and I can bend things to my will, essentially. And it takes a little time, a little finesse, but you can make it work, and you can make it look natural. So if I were to zoom out, this is looking a little more natural. And you really want that seam to kind of fit in and blend in. So you might have to use a variety of tools to do that. So it might take you a while to blend that seam and make everything look nice. But when you're done, it's going to look something like this. And I wanted mine to kind of swirl in a little bit. It'll look a little surreal, and that's okay. It doesn't have to look realistic. It can be dreamlike. And what you're going to do here is you're going to start creating that story. What in the world do you want to talk about? So for a story, you need to have a figure in there, whether it be a human or an animal or two people interacting with each other. I'm just going to choose the bare minimum right now and pick a figure. Again, I used unsplash.com, or a picture that you took. And as a reminder, you want to cut out your object either using the polygonal lasso, the magnetic lasso, or you could even use the magic wand if you got an image with a plain white background. But I'm going to use the polygonal lasso. And again, you just kind of go around your object, and you want to go around very carefully. I'm doing mine a little bit fast so you can kind of get the gist of what I'm doing and what's going on. Part of your grade is making sure that this is nicely cut out and it looks natural. But again, because this is just a tutorial and I'm just showing you how to do things, I'm not taking an incredible amount of time cutting this out. You can zoom in and zoom out so you can see fine details. But I'm just going to cut them out. So I'm going to go all the way around real quick. And wherever you started, you have to end right where you started. So you're going to see that circle. Use the move tool, move him over in the tab. You might have to resize him using Control T. Make sure you hold shift so he's not wonky. And proportionally, you want him to make sense. You don't want him to be too big, but yet you don't want him to be super tiny to where you can't see things. Having depth in a piece is pretty important in this project. So you want to have your foreground, a middle ground, and a background. In this case, the foreground is mountains, the middle ground is the human, and the background is the sky. Obviously, you guys are going to add a lot more things to this, whether it be brush tools, filters, adjustment layers. Those are things you should all know, and I am looking for what you know pretty much after this segment of the tutorial. So again, here's my image. I have a lot of adjustment layers. I put some filters on there. In case you forgot where filters are, you can go to Window, and you can go to Actions. And I have a ton preloaded, but you guys will start off with none. DeviantArt is a really good place to get actions. You can get actions by Googling. But get creative, have fun, and I'm excited to see these.